What's up guys, Aroneous here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video I'm going to be going over the top 5 nukers in the game, at least in my opinion. So top 5 nukers in the game, let's get it. Alright guys, so I'm going to be going over my top 5 nukers in the game. You can leave in the comments down below what you think. Do you have these nukers when I go over them? And which nukers are your favorite in the game? Which do you feel like are underrated? Leave it in the comments down below. But first, and also, I just want to point out, I'm not going to put them in any specific order, but I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, I think this person's number 1, or I think this person's number 1. Right now, I feel like I'm not putting them in any particular order, but I am going to go 5 to 1. So we're going to first start off with a really strong champion, and it could be a void, or it could be a non-void legendary champion, or just champion in general. But a lot of times, our strong nukers in the game are legendary. So the first champion I'm going to go with is going to have to be... Is he a Knight's Rev? He is a Knight's Rev, and that is Georgid the Breaker. This guy is so strong, ridiculously powerful. I get taken out from him in live arena, in tag team arena, in regular arena, and I try my best to stray away from this guy if I can help it, unless I know for a fact I can win. Because if he counterattacks, he hits so hard on this ability. Hits one enemy 2 times, 30% chance of repeating the attack up to 3 hits. This is a strong hit. And this guy is super annoying in Stone Skin. Let me tell you, he is super annoying if he has Stone Skin on. So I've gone up against him thinking he doesn't have Stone Skin. Like, there's no way. He's definitely in a lethal set. Ends up being in Stone Skin. Ends up having all kinds of counterattack or like revenge gear. And just demolishes my team. On his A2, attacks all enemies, decreases the turn meters of all targets by 30%. And this effect cannot be resisted. Cannot be resisted. That's insane. Okay? This is an insane ability. Places unkillable buff on this champion for 1 turn if this attack kills an enemy. And a lot of times it does kill an enemy, because the first thing he starts off with is going to be this one right here. Attacks one enemy, will ignore strengthen, stone skin, unkillable, block damage, increased defense, ally protection, shield buffs. Ridiculous. And then adding on top of that is grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. I would say about 99.9% of the time, unless you have crappy gear, this ability is demolishing somebody. Now, I will say, if they have, like, you know, what doesn't it ignore? I mean, it's not that it doesn't ignore anything, it ignores everything. So, strengthen, sayonara. Does it ignore increased defense? Yep, sayonara. Like, literally ignores everything. And the best part about this ability is ignoring Stone Skin. They need to make more champions in the game like this. He also has a passive, 50% chance for this champion to ignore 50% of the target's defense from each hit placed by this champion's skills. That means any skill. So 1 hit 2 times. That means it's going to proc twice, 50% chance to ignore 50% of the target's defense. So you don't even really need to put him in a savage or a lethal, but it is highly recommended to do that. Or you could go crazy like other people that go in arena, live arena, things like that, put Stone Skin on him really fast and he just goes nuts. But that's going to be number 5. Again, not in any particular order. The next one up is going to be Baron. So Baron is insane. This guy's still top tier. He actually recently got the buff there, like within the past like 8 months or so. And this guy is ridiculous. His Sky Piercer used to be something that had to be unlocked and was a special skill, but now it's a regular active skill on a 4-turn cooldown. People were asking for this skill to be on a cooldown like this for years. And there were a lot of people that were kind of wishy-washy with this, like really endgame players were a little bit frustrated that this ability got changed to a 4-turn cooldown, but in my eyes, this is an amazing skill to be changed to a 4-turn cooldown, because it ignores shields, block damage buffs, as well as 50% of the target's defense. Now, through and through, this guy's ability is the hardest hitting, I'd say, probably in the game, next to Leorius, probably. But this guy's ability ignores 50% of the target's defense. So I think this is actually the hardest hit in the game for Arena. And only if you can get it to proc, that is. If you can get it to proc, this ability is nutty. So if you have a speed team, you can take off those stone skins, then you're good to go. Now, the issue with this guy being nerfed a little bit is because of stone skin. So if everybody on their team has stone skin, it's possible that this actually goes right through a lot of the stone skin. So it'll take away their stone skin and just nuke right through it potentially. If the champions are like attack-based champions, they just don't have a lot of HP and defense, then you can actually destroy the stone skin and potentially kill that champion as well. But does it happen all the time? No, not necessarily. So stone skin definitely nerfs him. Damage increases according to the number of buffs on this champion, attacks one enemy. So it's kind of similar to like a Turvold. More buffs on a Turvold, the more damage he does in like clan boss or just in general progression over time. But Righteous Charge, such a strong ability. Then he's got this one right here. Split Asunder. Attacks one enemy, places an increased defense, or decreased defense, excuse me, for 2 turns, and this debuff is guaranteed. Guaranteed. And it's not before he attacks though, that's the issue. It's after he attacks. So places the decreased defense for 2 turns after he attacks. It's guaranteed, okay? So no matter what they've got on, it is guaranteed. So attacks one enemy, will attack all remaining enemies with any surplus damage if the target's killed. Now, this is an ability used for wave content for PvE and in arena as well. So you start off with the Sky Piercer and then you go off with the Trample ability. But of course, if people are using Stone Skin, you may want to think about starting off with the Trample ability against one target. So he also has 33% attack in all battles, which is not bad. He can be ran in the lead for arena as well. Next champion we've got going on is going to be none other than the big man himself, and that is Rotos. This guy is insane. I see him everywhere. He's in arena regular, he's in tag team, he's in live arena, actually probably potentially number 1 in live arena, I would say, next to like a Leo. But this guy is ridiculously strong. I wish I had this guy. This guy's madness in arena. Like I'm terrified of this guy, but thank God for Ultimate Death Knight. If you have Ultimate Death Knight, then of course this guy's not as scary. However, his counterpart Sifi is always ending up being paired with this guy in arena or tag team arena, especially if you're closing in on gold 1, gold 2, gold 3. Pretty much anytime you see a Rotos, he most likely is paired with a Sifi. Now, if not, then he ends up being paired with someone like a Harima who mitigates damage. So this guy right here, Terror Scourge, attacks one enemy, 75% chance of placing a decreased defense for 2 turns, also has a 25% chance of granting an extra turn. That is a high chance, and I think this actually got nerfed in the past. So this one here, Vitality Plunder, attacks one enemy, destroys the target's max HP by 20%, adds that HP to this champion's max HP as well, cannot destroy a single champion's max HP by more than 60% in one battle, and cannot increase this champion's max HP by more than 60,000. Destroys the max HP of bosses by 30% of the damage inflicted instead, and this champion max HP will be increased by 15,000 when this skill is used against bosses instead of the 60,000. So that's not bad. And then right here, attacks one enemy, will ignore 60% of the target's defense. This is his bread and butter skill because it actually goes through unkillable block damage as well. Enemies killed by this cannot be revived if this champion has gained the maximum amount of HP from the Vitality Plunder, which is this ability, grants an extra turn if this skill kills an enemy. And many times when you're in battle, unless you're in like Platinum, in gold 5 and lower, you're pretty much always getting the kill with this ability as long as you build him well. So, and then of course on his passive will decrease the damage from enemy hits so that incoming damage from a single enemy hit will not exceed 50% of this champion's max HP, grants an extra turn if this damage reduction occurs. This is a very, very strong ability. So he pretty much grants an extra turn. So if he gets hit, say he gets 50% of his health just completely gone, he'll mitigate that damage unless it's an AoE double hit and kills him. So if he doesn't die, grants the extra turn, takes a turn, he can go right into the Fated Destruction. Or some people like to do the Scourge to do an additional 25% chance of granting an extra turn, but it's all up to the people that want to use him that way. You also have to be very careful because if you do use this ability too many times, his buffs will fall off because you can get unlucky RNG in arena. But again, this is a very, very strong champion. I really wish I had this guy. This guy's insane for anybody out there. He's a great progressive based champion, insane against dungeon bosses, insane against waves, insane against the scarab boss as well. You can use him against the scarab if you wanted to, but most people just tend to use, what's his name? I forget what his name is, but you get him from the Doom Tower. He's actually in the same location. Rotos, that's who it is. So Rotos the Soul Cage is typically a solo artist against scarab, but you can use this guy too. You can also use this guy against the bird, the big bird, and you can also use him in many other areas of the game. So yeah, so then also this does not work against bosses for the passive. Decreases the damage taken from bosses by 15%, decreases the damage taken from bosses by 30% if Sifi's on the same team. So if you pair him with Sifi against bosses, he just goes nuts. So now that's the next champion. The next champion up is going to be in here. And there she is. Harima. Harima, another amazing champion. And Harima is like super top tier meta champion at this point in this game. She just is ridiculously powerful. If you have her, congratulations on pulling her, because you just achieve greatness. This chick is wild. Attacks one enemy, 50% chance of placing a decreased attack for 2 turns. Also has a 25% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack on all enemies if this attack is critical. Very strong ability. Just be careful in arena, because if you put her with too high of accuracy, she's just going to get sheeped over and over and over, and it's really annoying. Now on the A2, attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit decreases a target's defense by 5% and stacks up to 30%. This is extremely strong nowadays. She is scaled so high nowadays since this game has been out. The scaling on these nukers that are coming out these days are just scaling so much higher and higher and higher from your original nukers like a Foley and things like that in the past. Now, they have unique kits, of course. Foley is good in his own way. He's very strong as well. But this chick right here, hitting 3 times, hitting so hard and decreasing the defense every single time they hit somebody, she's meant for long battles. She's meant for prolonged battles against waves, against Doom Tower, against arena, especially live arena nowadays. Many of the tougher opponents that you face, they're going to be long drawn out battles. So this chick's going to come in and she's going to help mitigate a lot of damage and do a lot of damage as well. So each hit also increases a champion's defense up to 100%, but by 5% for each hit, which is insane. Instantly activates the Celestial Awe skill if this attack kills an enemy. That's insane as well. Now, Celestial Awe here does hit hard, attacks all enemies, places a provoke debuff for 1 turn. The crazy part about it, this debuff cannot be blocked or resisted if the target champion is from the Demon Spawn faction. So that means Duchess, right? Duchess is not going to be able to resist or block this ability. She's going to get provoked, which means Duchess may not, if she takes a turn before Duchess may not be able to get off that A2 ability to place all those buffs on the champions. Increase attack, block debuffs buff, things like that. So the passive here, also crazy. Ignores defense effects. Enemy ignore defense effects are decreased by 50%. Champions from the Demon Spawn faction cannot inflict critical hits on this champion. That's ridiculous. So take Kanjafan out of the equation. Kanjafan is one of the most annoying champions that I face. I don't have a Harima on either of my accounts, and Kanjafan annihilates when he's on defense. If you have a Harima, you should always be bringing her in against Kanjafan, because this right here makes a massive difference. And I think she might be the only champion in the entire game that has this type of passive ability where champions from a specific faction just will not ever hit a critical hit on them. This champion cannot land weak hits on champions from the Demon Spawn faction. Also a really crazy part of her passive. And she has arena resistance in arena battles, by 80. So that's pretty sick as well. Now, the last one here that we're going to go over, very strong champion. You guys may already have it in your head, and it is Leorius. So Leorius, number 1 here on the list. Still one of the most OP champions in the game, mainly because of his crazy passive. You guys already know what he does. He's insane. If you don't know, he places this unkillable buff on himself instantly before he takes a fatal hit. So damage increases as his champion's HP decreases by 1% for every 1% of HP lost, which means he will literally gain pretty much 100% additional damage. So, and then on his A1, attacks one enemy 2 times, each hit 60% chance of placing a decreased defense. Damage increases by 20% if the target has less than 60% HP. So typically by the time you hit him the second time, usually they have less than 60% HP off the first hit. So his damage increases by 20% for that second hit and wipes them out. I've been wiped out by that many times. This one right here, Rage of the Pride, attacks 2 times. Passive effect, this champion is immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, true fear, petrification when it's not on cooldown, which means you can run him slow. Run him as slow as you want, basically. Now, be careful, because if he doesn't have enough resistance and he's too slow and he doesn't get a turn, then you can get your buff, which is the unkillable, removed, stripped, or whatever, or stolen, and then you can get killed if he's just way too slow. So you do have to have him at a respectable speed. I would suggest 180 speed. But yeah, this definitely helps him to be able to run at those slower speeds. And then on this one here, attacks all enemies, has an 80% chance of placing a true fear debuff for 1 turn. Before attacking, has an 80% chance of placing a 25% weaken debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, which means he's going to have that weaken out there potentially before he even attacks. But most people aren't putting crazy amounts of accuracy on this guy. Again, stems to polymorph that's out there nowadays, turning into a sheep. And plus, as a nuker, you want as much damage as possible so you can wipe out those tanky teams. He also has a nice crit rate in all battles by 24%, so you could run him in the lead. You could run him with only 76% crit rate, which would be nice because you could stack up more attack, stack up more speed, stack up more crit damage, get him hitting as hard as possible. But of course, he would have to have some speed, or you need a speed booster, and make sure that they're going before him, or you're just going to be going up against those teams that are like Resistance, Aura in the lead, something like that. Anyways, that's going to be it for this one. I really appreciate you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think of the top 5 champions that are nukers in the game. I don't have a single one of them on either of my accounts. Let me know in the comments down below if you do, and which is your favorite champion. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on a video soon. Peace.